The great hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light drawn from the cores of distant suns. Delegates from 100 worlds gathered in tall rows that curved upward, like the ribs of a sleeping giant. Voices buzzed, arguments clashed, and the air trembled with self-importance. At the center stood a single table where a human delegation sat in silence. They were small compared to most races present. Their eyes watched and listened but offered nothing. Where others had armor of crystal or flesh grown from living minerals, they wore simple dark fabric. No translator shimmered near their mouths because their language was already known to all. For years, the Council had praised itself for welcoming humanity into its order. The humans had contributed medicine, energy methods, and star drive improvements that changed half the galaxy's way of life. Yet with every gift, resentment had grown. Humanity's pace, curiosity, and refusal to kneel before older empires stirred unease. They were called unpredictable, reckless, emotional. Now, after a decade of quiet tension, the Council had decided that humanity was too disruptive to remain. The High Speaker struck his staff once, and the hall fell into stillness. His voice was smooth and metallic, shaped by centuries of rule. "Representatives of Terra," he said, "you have been found incompatible with the cooperative harmony of the Galactic Union. Your species' independent actions have endangered peace. Effective immediately, all human membership privileges are suspended." Murmurs spread across the chamber. Some whispered in relief, others in worry. The humans did not protest. The lead delegate, a man named John, simply stood. His voice was calm, measured, understood. The single word drifted like smoke. Then he turned, and the small group followed him out. No one stopped them. No one thought to. When the great doors sealed behind them, a quiet unease settled over the hall. The speaker resumed, speaking of votes, sanctions, redistribution of trade routes. But the hum of voices grew thinner. Some noticed that the hall's ambient light dimmed slightly, as though the humans had taken a small measure of brightness with them. Outside the Council's orbiting citadel, the humans boarded their transport. It was an old ship by alien standards, yet it moved with deliberate grace. The engines did not roar, they whispered. The vessel turned toward the edge of the system where starlight faded into deep black. Inside, the crew spoke little. They had expected this. For years, humanity had faced accusation after accusation, each one chipping away at the fragile trust they had tried to build. The last meeting had confirmed what they already knew. They were not welcome. John sat by the viewport. "That's that," he said quietly. Beside him, another human, an older woman named Maria, nodded. "They never wanted us." "Not really. They wanted what we built," John replied. "Not who we are." The ship slipped into faster-than-light travel, and the galaxy stretched into lines of color. Back in the Council, weeks passed. At first there was celebration. Trade rivals scrambled to seize the routes once managed by human fleets. Research divisions picked apart human patents, assuming easy wealth. But small problems began to surface. A planetary defense grid that used human algorithms went offline. A medical system that relied on human nanites ceased production. Navigation networks flickered with errors. None of it seemed catastrophic, but each issue required human calibration to repair. Without it, systems failed one by one. The Council ordered new engineers to replicate human code. They could not. Every formula looked simple until tested. Every design that humans made had layers hidden in plain sight. Months later, entire colonies began losing power. Agricultural planets using human-designed soil renewers found their crops turning gray. The Council demanded answers, yet none came. At first, they accused humanity of sabotage. But when investigators examined the systems, they realized something unnerving. The humans had left everything open. No traps, no hidden commands. The systems failed not because of malice, but because the humans were gone. The galaxy had leaned on them too long. In the dark between stars, humanity had gathered in silence. They found worlds far beyond mapped space where Council laws did not reach. They built new colonies, forged new alliances, and rediscovered something ancient within themselves. They no longer tried to prove they belonged. They no longer sought approval. They simply built. Word of their quiet expansion reached the edge of Council space, through traders and explorers. At first, the reports were dismissed. When a scout ship returned with images of vast cities glowing across frozen worlds and ships larger than anything seen before, the Council convened in alarm. The speaker addressed the assembly again. Humanity's withdrawal was their choice, he said. We will not provoke them. We will observe. But the whispers in the chamber told another story. Some wanted to restore contact, hoping to re-establish trade. Others feared what humanity was becoming in isolation. Years passed. The humans remained silent. Then came the day of the emergency session. A neighboring empire had fallen to an unknown force. Outposts on the rim sent distress signals describing entire fleets vanishing into darkness. When fragments of data reached the council, they saw enormous ships made of pure light tearing through defense lines with precision. At first, they assumed it was a new invader. But the transmissions carried faint markings, Terran design patterns. The speaker stood before the assembly once more, his metallic voice shaking slightly. We are receiving confirmation, he said. The attacking vessels are human. Panic rippled through the hall. Reports flooded in. The human fleets did not attack populated worlds. They dismantled old battle stations once used to threaten their colonies. They destroyed weapon caches the Council had hidden beyond treaty zones. And when they were done, they transmitted one message to every listening station. Do not follow us. Nothing more. No declaration. No explanation. Just silence. The Council tried to contact them, but all attempts failed. The humans had changed their communication systems. Their encryption was unbreakable. Weeks later, a delegation of smaller species requested a private hearing with the speaker. They were merchants and farmers whose planets had thrived under human trade. Their spokesman, a small being named Real, spoke with trembling hands. We depended on their supply routes, Real said. Now we are starving. You force them out and we pay the price. The speaker tried to respond with diplomatic calm, but even he saw the truth. Every species in that room owed something to humanity's innovation. Their energy grids, food systems, and defense shields were all built upon human cooperation. Without them, the grand structure of the Galactic Union began to crumble. The Council ordered new research programs to replicate human technologies, but progress was slow. The more they studied, the more they realized how deeply human design had shaped everything. What appeared simple was built on intuition no algorithm could mimic. One scientist described it in a report that circulated secretly among Council members. Human engineering, she wrote, is not built from logic alone. It carries emotion. It carries art. Machines respond not just to command but to purpose. Remove the human touch and the function loses meaning. When that report reached the speaker, he sat in silence for a long time. He remembered how easily the humans had accepted exile, how calmly they had stood when he declared their removal. He had thought it weakness. Now he understood. They had not been defeated. They had simply chosen to leave. The Council convened a meeting to discuss reopening contact. Messages were prepared, offering apologies and invitations. No answer came, months became years again. The galaxy adapted in crude ways. New empires rose, each trying to fill the vacuum humanity had left. None succeeded. Then, one cycle, a signal arrived at the edge of Council space. It was not a message of war or peace. It was an open broadcast, unencrypted, carrying an image of a single planet, blue and green, orbiting a quiet star. The voice that followed was calm, familiar. You have grown restless without us, the voice said. We told you to cooperate, not to control. We asked for unity, not obedience. We gave you tools to build a better galaxy. You used them to build walls. The transmission ended there. The Council sent hundreds of ships to locate the source. They found nothing. The signal had come from a moving point, a vessel beyond any known drive signature. After that, no more messages came. Over the decades that followed, humanity became legend. Younger species spoke of them as myths, builders of miracles who vanished when the galaxy failed to value them. The Council tried to maintain authority, but without humanity's guidance, its systems grew fragile. In time, the Great Hall itself dimmed. The light from the captured suns flickered and faded. The speaker's staff, once bright, grew dull. An old historian named Loran, one of the few who still studied human archives, stood before the Council on what would be its final session. His voice was quiet but steady. We thought they needed us, he said, but it was we who needed them. They taught us to look beyond profit, beyond rank, beyond pride. We called them reckless because they cared too deeply. We called them dangerous because they refused to be small. Now we understand. He looked around the nearly empty hall. They walked away quietly. They gave us every chance to change. We never listened. No one responded. Outside the Citadel, stars shimmered faintly and the great network of council beacons slowly went dark.